Leviathan, upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. Will he speak soft words unto thee? From space, the planet is blue. From space, the planet is the territory, not of humans, but of the whale. Blue seas cover 7/10 of the Earth's surface and are the domain of the largest brain ever created, with a 50-million-year-old smile. Ancient, unknown mammals left the land in search of food or sanctuary and walked into the water, their arms and hands change into water wings. Their tails turn into boomerang-shaped tail flukes, enabling them to fly almost weightless through the oceans. Their hind legs disappeared, buried deep within their flanks. Free from land-based pressures, free from droughts, earthquakes, ice ages, volcanoes, famine, larger brains evolved, 10 times as old as man's. Other creatures with a larger cerebral cortex, luxuriantly folded, intricately fissured, deep down in another country, moving at a different tempo. And the whale's lips formed their distant humorous curl when we were clawed quadrupeds, insect-eating shrews feverishly scrabbling at the bark of trees. This great and wide sea wherein, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. Whales play in an amniotic paradise, their light mind shaped by buoyancy, unrestricted by gravity, somersaulting like angels or birds, like our own lives in the womb. Whales play for 3 times as long as they spend searching for food. Delicate, involved games with floating seabirds' feathers blown high into the air, or logs of wood flipped from the tops of their heads, or carried in their teeth for a game of tag ranging across the entire Pacific. Play without goals. Naked, with skin like oil silk, smooth as glass, they move at 50 miles an hour, attaining faultless streamlining by subtly changing the shape of their bodies, altering ridges of cartilage and indentations of flesh to correspond to constantly differing patterns of water, to accommodate minute oscillations with vibrant inflections of muscle and skin, so that layers of liquid glide over each other in an easy laminar flow. No drag, no turbulence, a velvet energy. And like Buddhists, they are not compulsive eaters. They can go for 8 months without food. And they do not work to eat, they play to eat. The humpback catches its food by blowing bubbles, 5-foot wide bubbles as large as weather balloons. And when they burst, they make a circle of confusing mist. The plankton, the Arctic shrimps, the krill, the sea butterfly are corralled into the middle of a bewildering ring of hissing bubble bombs. The whale then rises up into the center of a round plate of brimming water and eats. Imagine blowing soap bubbles and food drops out of the sky. After dinner, music, ethereal music that carries for miles. A siren song leading sailors to believe, as the sound infiltrated their wooden hull, that their vessels were haunted by spirits of the deep. Webs of elegant cetacean music stretch around the globe. Lyrical litanies on their bio-radio, which draw on an oral tradition of submarine songs from a living memory bank founded 50 million years ago. Different dialects, different themes, different clusters of notes, sequences, phrases, sub-phrases, sung with different cadences and modulations to send different messages to different individuals. different songs from day to day, from year to year. An indication that there are creatures other than man still evolving. Millions of mysterious sounds memorized and passed on from generation to generation, all clearly retained in their mind, uncluttered by cuneiform tablets, paper, newsprint, hard drives, iPhones, free of all methods of transcription, which, disconnected from the body language of the informant, facilitate deceit. Alien beings, their whole body, every membrane, every hollow, every bone, part of an enormous ear, 20 times as sensitive as man's. Whale families, whale tribes, all have different songs, an acoustic picture language, spirited pulses relayed through water at 5 times the speed sound travels through air, varied enough to express complex emotions, cultural details, history, news, a sense of the unknown. For a lone humpback may put on a solo concert lasting for days. Within a humpback's half-hour song, there are 100 million bytes, 1 million changes of frequencies, and 1 million tonal twists. An odyssey, as information-packed as Homer's, may be told in 30 minutes. 50-million-year-old sagas of continuous whale mind. Accounts of the forces of nature, the minutiae of a shared consciousness, whale dreams, the accumulated knowledge of the past. Rumors of ancestors, the Archaeoceti with lifespans of 200 and 300 years. Memories of loss, memories of ideal love, memories of meetings. For the rorqual whale, into whose mouths 14 people could be placed, hold meetings in certain places, set aside near their breeding lagoons. Evenly spaced in their watery stadium, they stand vertically like megaliths, 1/3 of their bodies above the surface, rhythmically threshing the water beneath them, cliffs of flesh, breathing in unison, their heads quite still, talking in ultrasound, followed by long superhuman silences, as if in a collective reverie, their brains offline, updating their programs. Their brains 6 times the size of man's, with a large area of frontal and parietal lobe like man's for assessing the past and forecasting the future. Their antique, crusty heads are festooned with regal tassels of vegetation. Thick dangling fronds and swatches of sargasso seaweed hang off their stalked acorn barnacles. They stand eerily like benign, long-suffering ghouls. Animated standing stones exchanging information with high resolution, detecting sounds a microsecond long. Unearthly creatures inhabiting a medium 800 times denser than air. The whale moves in a sea of sound. Shrimps snap, plankton seethes, fish croak, gulp, drum their air bladders, and are scrutinized by echolocation, a light massage of sound touching the skin. The small toothed whales use high frequencies, finely tuned and focused sound beams, intense salvos of bouncing clicks 1,000 a second, with which a hair as thin as 0.5 millimeter may be detected. Penetrating probes with which to scan the contents of a colleague's stomach, follow the full measure of a brain, and take the full measure of an approaching friend. From 2 cerebral cavities in their melon-shaped heads, they can transmit 2 sonic probes as if talking in stereo and send them in any direction at the same time. One ahead, one behind, one above, one below, lengthening their sound waves, shortening them until the acoustic switchboard receives the intelligence required. The smallest cetacean, the dolphin, will rise to the surface, pitch its vocal frequencies to suit that of human speech, adjust its voice to the same level as human sound when traveling through air, an unfamiliar medium, adjust the elastic lips of its blowhole, and then, after courteously waiting for silence, produce a vibrato imitation of human language. Words, phrases, sentences. Cybernetic attempts to mimic Delphinese meet with a pain snort of disappointment, followed by a deep dive to a place of refuge where the ratcheting metallic ticks are less audible. The larger whales use lower frequencies, rumbling like generators, wavering transoceanic throbs with which to keep in contact with their tribe over hundreds of miles, building up accurate echo pictures of their positions in the sea, detecting giant squid 35 feet long, krakens concealed in pitch black grottos. The blue whale is nearly 100 feet long. It weighs 170 tons, as much as 2,700 people. Its tongue is 10 feet thick, heavier than an elephant. It has 7 stomachs, arteries you could swim through, a half-ton heart, and 8 tons of blood. It has 7-gallon testicles. It lives for 120 years. It has as many living cells in its body as there are people in the world. The giant blue nucleus in the transparent plasma of the sea, a gargantuan heart in charge of the world's breath. For without their attentions, with the oxygen-producing plankton breeding uncontrollably, they would overheat their habitat, destroy the air-conditioned equilibrium of their global crucible. Their wan blue light fading, taking this atmosphere with it. If they did not eat the plankton and keep it in check, from which almost all the oxygen of the world derives, and from its prehistoric mainframe mind, from its head 25 feet in length, the blue whale, the largest creature ever to have lived upon this planet, now and again utters an ominous whistle of 188 decibels, louder than Concorde. Without hands for making external tools, without depending on tons upon tons of artifacts destined as litter, the whale's sophistication has become internal. Its skills are all perceptive, social, sensual, jokey, non-manipulative. With their skillful acoustic sense outstripping their eyesight, they may have developed vision. When whales breed, they breed with ecological consideration. They breed in precise relation to the amount of food in the sea. After a season foraging under the Arctic ice floes, to which the narwhal has made a breathing hole with its unicorn horn for the use of all species, the baleen whales leave their pinnacled ice palaces and find their way south or north to mate. With glowing tracks behind them in the water, larger ships, the humpbacks use the rotational forces of the planet, the azimuth of the sun, the taste and temperature of the tides, the contours of the seabeds, canyons, plains, vaults, the mountain summits of the mid-Atlantic ridge, twice the width of the Andes, which stretches for 10,000 miles from Iceland to Patagonia. Guided by hydrothermal vents in the Earth's crust, the topography of coral reefs, the position of the moon and its tidal pull. Navigating with a lodestone disc made of polarized magnetite, a compass in the brain, sensitive to the geomagnetic flow of force fields under phosphorescent seas, they find their way to the mating grounds. On arriving at their liquid seraglio, sealed off from the outside world by riptides, success in courtship is determined by whoever can sing the most absorbing song. Whoever makes the wildest movement with their bodies, spy hopping and wave riding, tail slapping and breaching, turning upside down and thwacking their back like flukes against the surface with sharp, echoing cracks, throwing themselves into odd, alluring shapes, sinuously whirling and fricking through the sea. They glide past each other, testing congenial feelings, judging the suppleness of motion, judging sensation with gentle discrimination. Mutual attraction is an elaborate, thoughtful process. In whales, the male member is erected voluntarily, unsheathed from within deep abdominal folds, erected, then collapsed and concealed again by an act of will. Unlike in man, where it has an unseasonal, disconnected life of its own, and the blue whale's penis is 9 feet long, which may require additional self-control. The two whales draw closer, fanning each other, then stroking each other with pectoral fins. Giant, pink, gentle lips roll back underneath the water. They join forces, embrace, mating face to face, like humans. Stirring their huge tail flukes, their heads emerge slowly above the water. They clutch each other, their long flippers around each other. The accordion pleats of their groove bellies interleave as they move their flutes backwards and forwards beneath them. Their bodies are pressed closer and closer as they rise out of the sea, out of the shimmering green shadows below, into the exhilarating glare of the sky. With a final movement powerfully churning their flutes in unison 50 feet below, they propel themselves upwards, gallons of water sluicing down their sides. They both jump clear, held together in midair for their massive climax. The sea moves. Any earthly thing nearby is swamped. They dive, curving their bodies. They dive a mile down, dropping their heartbeat, collapsing their lungs, folding their ribs along articulated joints to counteract the bends, happily slipping through the pressure of 500 atmospheres, 250,000 tons of dense water at the seabed exerted on their bodies. Half an hour later, they emerge, triumphantly blowing like blast furnaces. 3,000 times the contents of the human lung is expelled in 2 seconds through their air pipes in a great sigh of steam. Plumes of warm mist jet from their blowholes, exuberant exclamation marks punctuating the sky. Their spouting exhalations are audible for half a mile, sounding like distant thunder and looking like puffs of chimney smoke from an underwater town. They inhale, and as the air enters the endless corridors of their bodies, it gives off the sound of a reverberating bell. 11 months later, the first sound a whale calf hears is singing. Its mother lifts her newborn calf to the surface, then rolls gently over onto her side, expressing her milk into its mouth with muscles deep inside her breast. Twice as rich as human milk, richer than clotted cream. The songs of their escorts filtered through the water, the element of baptism, in which the whale calf is to be perennially immersed. Should anything untimely happen to it, its mother will support her calf upon her back until it disintegrates. The Inuit say, "We like the way the whales think, and the whale is good to imagine." The Kwakiutl of Alert Bay believe that the whale is a long life maker who brings prosperity. The Nunca claim that the whale allows his death to spare people from hunger, and that therefore they must be worthy of it. But other men have elected to view the whale as an expanding economy. When an underwater shape is detected on the submarine radar, catcher boats are dispatched from the factory ship. The harpoon on the raised foredeck is swiveled, manned and swiveled in the direction of the whale. As the whale comes within range, the engine screw is slowed down and then silenced. An accurate shot lands between the shoulder blades. An inaccurate shot is followed up by 2, 3, or 4 more. At the end of the 5-foot-long steel harpoon, a small serrated cup prevents ricochet. The tip strikes, exploding 3 seconds later, splintering and lacerating the harpoon's way into the whale's side. Next to the grenade, 4 barbed flanges pivot on hinges, and as the whale struggles, the strain on the rope snaps the barbs open. They fly out, embedding the harpoon into the lungs and inner organs, embedding it into the body. The whale clashes her jaws together, pants, flurries, spurts blood raspingly through her blowhole. She thrashes her tail against the surface, strenuously heaving at the 6-inch thick nylon line attached to accumulator springs in the catcher boat's hold, designed to buffer every move. 20 minutes pass. The whale's ribs become too heavy to move. The rib muscles give up their strength. The air valves collapse, admitting a rush of seawater. The whale's lungs flood. She suffocates and dies, revolving slowly in the water, leaving her white stomach exposed. A hollow lance attached to an air line is fired at her upturned belly, feeding compressed air into her corpse to inflate it and keep it afloat. An identifying flag with a radar reflector and the catcher boat's number is lobbed into her. She's left to drift, rimmed with oil slick and blood. With no enemies in the sea, the whale is loath to believe in the attack, as with Indians, as with the Aborigines. The factory ship, large as an aircraft carrier with the capacity to deal with the whale every 30 minutes, draws alongside. A hole is bored into the nearest end of her body, lips or tail, and a tow line is attached, and she's hauled to the bottom of the ramp. A set of moving claws is lowered towards her. The hawser wire is pulled, and the curved fingers of the metal tongs bite. The whale is inched up the slope onto the flensing deck. Wearing spike plates to their boots, the flensing crew, to pin themselves to the whale, the flensing crew, armed with long-handled knives, slice into the whale, scoring huge straps 18 inches wide and 10 feet long. Winches are tied around the ends of loose flesh. Wires are tied around loose flesh, and winches pull it from the whale's side. The whale is stuffed through manholes to be carved into a sodden mess by whirring knives that lie below in rotating drums. The minced flesh is shunted into digester tanks, boiled down for 4 hours of superheated steam. The solid residues dried and bagged up. The oil is piped into the separator house, double boiled, centrifuged, hardened into edible fats, graded into half a dozen categories, barreled and stored. The skull, jawbones, ribs, spine, and pelvis are dismembered with chainsaws, ground down and shoveled into bone cookers, melted and milled for chicken feed and fertilizer. From a whale who is pregnant, the unborn are towed into meat boilers with huge hooks slung in their blowholes. The inner organs are towed into other boilers to be distilled into pharmaceuticals. The belly blubber is reserved for a delicacy known as whale bacon. The jaw cartilages are pickled. The tail flukes are frozen to be eaten raw. The floating factory has done little but exchanged 20,000 gallons of petroleum for 20,000 gallons of animal oil. Foreign currency has been acquired. The odd fact that no whale has ever been found with a serious pathological disease, no whale has ever been found suffering from cancerous tumors, is overlooked. Yet civilization was built on the back of the whale. Coastal settlements followed the presence of whales. Shore stations near the whaling grounds became cities. Boston, New York, Tokyo, Leningrad, Vladivostok, Lisbon, Bergen, Brest, Odessa, Yokohama, San Francisco, Reykjavik, Valdivia, San Pedro, Vancouver, Sydney, Durban, Rotterdam, Whitby, Hull, Darwin, Buenos Aires, Hobart, Wellington, Auckland, Helsinki, Seoul, Murmansk, Manila, Valparaiso, Dundee, Glasgow, Philadelphia, Liverpool, London, Hamburg. Urban conglomerations plugged into the corpse of the whale, growing larger and larger by its light. The whale's insulating wetsuits hacked off in fencing ships in untold billions. For fuel, for lamps and candle wax, to turn night into day. For whale oil appliances, for sweatshops and factories. For domestic lighting, for street lighting, for shop lighting. For the flexible baleen filaments, for umbrellas, toys and upholstery. Even the springs in the first typewriter. Millions and millions and millions died in the marine holocaust, generating the implacable human appetite for electricity, petroleum, and plastic. For soap to be returned mixed with dirt into the sea. For glycerol, for lipstick in the idle fantasy world of beauticians. For detergents, from whose froth modern advertising was spawned. For glycerine, for nitroglycerine, to blow a hole in the human herd. For brushes and brooms, for linoleum, for medical trusses. For oilcloths, for sausage skins, for sword hilts and scabbards, for drum skins, for laces, for tennis racket strings, for riding crops, for buttons, for chessmen, for artist pigment, for wax crayons, for engineering coolants, for golf bags, for varnishes, for parchment, for printing inks, for insecticide, for calcium, for blanco, and military purification. For calcium, for fertilizers, to speed up the gestation of the earth. For the jute industry, for the shoe industry, for the cotton industry, for the wool industry, for tempering steel. Without the bloodletting of the whale, prime source of light and lubrication, the Industrial Revolution would have been scantily equipped. A spectral colossus haunts the inflated myth of progress, so keen to brush aside its hidden cost in the cause of pure profit, so forgetful in the bright name of novelty. For paint, for skin cream, for stock cubes, for cattle fencing, for mahjong counters, for endocrinal hormones to treat those who are suffering from arthritis, for vitamins from the liver oil to treat those who are flagging, for insulin from the pancreas to treat those whose blood is too sweet, for gelatine, for the transparent capsules of pills, for gelatin for jelly, for gelatin for glue, for stays and busks and bodices, the statuesque corsetry emphasizing the breasts and the hips, the essential sustenance for empire building. For fish bait, for cattle meal, for food supplies to fur farms, for dog food, for cat food, for the fermentation process in the manufacturing of antibiotics, for oiling the automatic transmission systems of automobiles, for low-calorie cooking fat, for shortening for bread, pastries, and cakes, for steaks, sashimi slices and marinated yamatami, for kajuri yabi and obayuki soup, for whale meat rissoles, for whale meat stews, for pipes and piano keys, for earrings, for brooches, for cufflinks, for cigarette holders, for shoe horns, for car wax, for shoe polish, for fishing rods, for plasticizer, for machine oil, for ambergris burned at religious ceremonies to put you in good odor with the Almighty, for cosmetics to put you in good odor with each other. The sullen killing continues. The killing of the largest creatures in the world. It is unthinkingly supposed that the rest of life won't be shriveled in the process. Large creatures disappear, life becomes smaller. Blind dwarves crawl on top of the corpses of slaughtered giants to see further into their impending solitude. Gentle, visionary giants, most fully appreciated when dead, and reassuringly unreal. First, the Greenland whales eliminated. Then the right whales, so called because they were judged to be the right whales to kill. Then the humpback. Then the great sperm whales. Then the blue whales. Then the brooders. Then the fin. Then the pilot. Then the sei. Then the minkies. Then the pike. All reduced to a precious few. And now the dolphin, the spinners, the black-chins, the helmets, the snubfins, the duskies, the melonheads, the bridle, the spotted, the bottlenose, the risso, the peels, the heavy-sides, the hectors, the whitebeaks, the piebald, the irrawaddy, the amazon, the hourglass, 250,000 a year netted and killed. History relates that the whales have only eaten one human, Jonah, a prophet, in the fond hope perhaps of learning something from their human's forward planner, and then disgorged. The god Apollo saw the smallest whale, the dolphin, as the embodiment of peaceful virtue, undisguised joy, and as a guide to another world. He sometimes exchanged his godlike status to assume the dolphin form, and founded the Oracle of Delphi, named in the dolphin's honor. There the god hoped man might be guided by a sense of otherworldliness. 2,500 years later, to sacralize man strives to assimilate the dolphin in less mysterious ways, by lifting its hydrodynamic shape to sophisticate the designs of submarine weapons, or by confining it in a small box filled with stale water as a scientific pet, or as a short-lived tourist attraction, bribed with dead fish to convey a repetitive sense of fun, or by killing it and tinning it and eating it. When dolphins speak, they use only vowels and just faint hints of consonants, but recognizable. Hello, how are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A-E-I-O-U. My name is Peter. My name is Bobo. Clown. It is 6 o'clock. Trick, squirt water. Trick, more water. Bye, 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 bye. The bleak pleas of captives, thinking that if this anxious imitation of their captor's speech finds favor, their experimental tanks may be exchanged for the open sea. Tanks in which every sound they make underneath the water remorselessly bounces back at them from concrete walls. Tanks in which they are blinded in the name of science, entwining their minds in an acoustic cat's cradle. But the more words they encourage to speak, the cleverer they're thought to be. The more successfully they communicate, the longer they're required to stay. Look! He's just like us. And they find themselves flattered to death. Good boy. Good boy. Say, good boy. Good boy. In ancient Greece, it was thought that nothing was more diviner than the dolphin, that they'd once lived in cities along with man, but they'd swapped the land for the sea, taking the form of fishes. But they'd retained the righteous spirit of man, retained human thought, and could perform human deeds. Because of this, the killing of a dolphin carried the penalty of death, a punishment which may yet be on the books. Cetacean oil, cunningly used to protect the whale's sound library from the cold, is extracted by hard-nosed, gimlet-eyed parasites who view the whale only as an industrial resource and eat through her musical society like deaf maggots, land-lubbing whale lice, unable to detect the presence of oil in the body of a fellow creature without desiring to suck it out. Cetacean oil, oil that does not film over, oil that does not go rancid, oil that does not react to temperature changes, oil that can withstand the extreme cold of outer space without losing its viscosity. Irreplaceable sperm oil is stolen to provide the highest grade of lubricant, stockpiled and prized beyond all others by the manufacturers of arms, to anoint the moving parts of missiles. Though this particular motor lubricant may lead to all human cities clogged with rubble, ending their existence like beached whales, washed up and rotting on the foreshores of civilization, whose foundations were built upon dead blubber. When Orion boasted that he would kill all the animals of the world, the earth sent a monstrous scorpion to sting him. In classical times, the rare stranding of a single whale was taken as an omen of the death of a loved one. In modern times, the mass stranding of whales, prompted by the disorienting noise of tankers, liners, warships, depth charges, and the corruption of the ocean with waste and radiation, is taken to indicate an inferior intelligence in whales and ignored. In accordance with some private harmony, whales appear out of the blue to allow men to ride upon their backs, to save them from sharks, to massage their hearts. Sometimes the dolphin, with a mixture of saintliness and mischief, will try to bring a body round in the water by employing the final act of intimacy. When whaling boats have been overturned and men have found themselves floundering helplessly in the sea, they've been pushed up to the surface like bunches of frogs, forgivingly nudged by fellow mammals until they've regained their breath, tolerantly supported on the whale's back until they've revived to kill again. In the Kajanji temple of Yamaguchi province, tombs have been built to dead whales. Their monuments are facing the sea. Thus it is thought the whales may pay homage to their dead. The inscription upon one reads, "You whales who have perished, though you cannot return to the world, we will cherish your memory long in our hearts." In Arikawara, there's a shrine for 600 whales. In the Chidochi temple of Moroto, there is a memorial for 1,000 whales. Beside the graves of embryo whales, each year in Yamaguchi, a ceremony is conducted in honor of the souls of the unborn and to lift a curse on man for killing so many whales. In the water, whales have become the dominant species without killing each other. In the water, whales have become the dominant species, though they allow the resources they use to renew themselves. In the water, whales have become the dominant species without brutally guarding their patch with bristling security. In the water, whales have become the dominant species, though they use language to communicate rather than eliminate rivals. In the water, whales have become the dominant species without trading innocence for the pretension of possessions. In the water, whales have become the dominant species, though they acknowledge minds other than their own. In the water, whales have become the dominant species without allowing their population to reach plague proportions. In the water, the whale is the dominant species, an extraterrestrial who has already landed, a marine intelligentsia with a knowledge of the deep. From space, the planet is blue. From space, the planet is the territory. Not of humans, but of the whale. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sit down. I didn't write this. 1996, Mike Bruton, bless his heart, came to me and said, David, you've got to do Whale Nation. So I got Claire Watling. She directed me on top of the aquarium. Yeah. And then we did it. The first performance was in front of the predator tank. You can